So I've also been 36 years in the media, 20 years of mine were in the Indian Express. So we all know what is conventional journalism. So, we begin like from news and then we'll get on to everything else. So when I started my journalism, it was like the words that were printed in a newspaper. People believed it so much. But today, everything is looked at with an agenda. Everybody is suspicious, even of journalists like us who are so genuine. All are colored in kind of black. The journalists are abused. They're called prostitutes. All the hard work. Nobody would know anything that's happening in your society if we were not there. But that's how the situation is now. So let's begin from the beginning, Vaibhav, with you, that journalism, let's say 3 decades back and now, could you tell us the journey with your little experience too? And then, Sriram, same question to you.
Yeah, so of those last 30 years, I've been in journalism for the last 27. So I missed out just on 3. So maybe I can talk about those.
Sure.
Like you said, Vinita, once upon a time, not too long ago, there were only newspapers. And there was only Doordarshan. And that was the Bible, the final word on everything. And that was the solitary source of information. With liberalization came in private channels and private news channels, giving greater independence to the media, because with private organizations coming in, Doordarshan was not merely giving you government bulletins. The newspapers in India were always vibrant. We've had a tradition of vibrant journalism in India right from the time of our freedom movement. And this city in particular has been one of the pioneers in that regard, with people like Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Gopal Ganesh Agarkar. I mean, any number of people I can name actually here, who have truly led from the front and created a sort of template that still exists today. So with television, we had greater freedom. And then with a lot of freedom came the real crisis. And that crisis came in about 10, 12 years ago. And it was a crisis of credibility.
Absolutely.
Credibility got questioned because certain irregularities came to light. I can specifically mention here the Radia tapes and the manner in which journalists overall were conducting themselves. A very little known secret in the media came out around 2017-18 in the form of the Me Too movement. So it has been a disturbing decade for journalists. People have questioned the integrity of journalists, the professionalism of journalists, and the overall commitment to journalists to truth and to justice.
Right.
At the same time, there has been this onslaught of social media, which according to me has been a very good thing. Now, social media has its plus points, it has its negative points. And I know that as a journalist, I should be complaining mostly about social media. But I think social media did play a role in showing a mirror to traditional media. And I think a lot of things also depend on what you decide to take. If you decide to take the positives, then you're going to take the positives. And if you're going to take only the abuses, which anyway we get, everybody gets. It's not just journalists who get it, but everybody gets. Then you take that. So the atmosphere has drastically and radically changed. We have far bigger challenges before us with the proliferation of media, social media, with the proliferation of the net, with video and audio journalism becoming more and more important as time goes by. Yeah. And we are now staring at a new big challenge, which may perhaps be the biggest challenge of all, and that is artificial intelligence.
Yes,
so it has its opportunities, but it is going to be a big challenge, and we are looking at it as a challenge.
Thank you so much, Vaibhav. Sriram, could you tell me, you have a popular column also where you write about the present day politics and your entire story for journalism since the last 3 decades.
Thank you so much. I have this view that artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity, and media has plenty of it. We are inherently so stupid that I would like to see the code that will match it someday. Uh, Couple of profound thoughts and couple of very practical truths. All of you must have heard and variously called the fourth pillar of democracy. And I don't know who signed up on behalf of the media to be the fourth pillar of society or democracy. I don't know. If you see very interestingly, the other three pillars, legislature, executive, and judiciary, they're all government employees and are paid salary by the government. They are in the benefit list from the taxpayer. So whether you like it or not, your money is going to the pocket of MLA, MP, minister, chief minister, prime minister, judiciary.
Besides the kickbacks and commissions.
I'm not talking of that. I'm talking of legitimately the three pillars are paid for by the taxpayer in this country. The fourth pillar is told, you act as the fourth pillar of society, protect us, tell us the truth. I don't know why, I never signed any paper saying I'll tell the truth to anybody. But everybody says you have a responsibility towards society. I don't know clue. And then they say, by the way, we'll not pay you. You earn your money also. This is also the profession in which I left journalism after 4 years for only two reasons. I said, na isme paisa hai, ईमानदारी से that is, and ना कोई future दिख रहा है मुझे. Suddenly 4 years ago, one fine day, I was called and said, would you like to be the editor? Then I called some friend and said, I got an offer in a corporate, beautiful salary, and then the other job, editor's job. Said, media में एक ही job अच्छा है, editor का. कुछ करता नहीं है, नाम होता है, जाके try कर ले. Successful हो गया तो good, failure हुआ तो nobody will blame you. Right? I'm being very, very candid with you. So I said, ठीक है, let's try. So I said, ठीक है, you have to become the editor of a paper. Sounds good, feels good. Maybe it's actually good, let me try. And I came back. And then you have coronavirus, and I can assure you that this is a profession where you are not paid salaries on time. Maybe Vaibhav, ठीक है, Times of India, no problem, but almost all the other papers. For months, we don't pay salaries. So we are never supposed to be paid by any of you as tax. We are supposed to, on your behalf, ask questions of power. We are supposed to go on behalf of you, hold a mic with people who will never do press conferences, people who will never answer questions. We can't even ask, we don't get paid. We are called paid journalists. Everybody on earth is paid. Paid doctors, paid lawyers, paid auto drivers, paid security guards, paid jawans, paid. Who's unpaid? This profession actually is unpaid, and then you are called paid this, paid that. And now this country's large part of citizenry, at least on Twitter, believes two things are very important. One, make sure all the questions are directed at the journalist. People you don't pay, but who have to protect you against people who you have decided to protect from us. And then, after delegitimizing, abusing, making sure you are rendered irrelevant, made useless, attacked, buffooned, lampooned, and then there is this guy in Texas called Sam Altman, who's rising somewhere on that horizon. So I would say to all of you, it is really like sitting and playing the band. All of you must recall from the movie the people who played the band on the Titanic. It's a beautiful job. And I love to talk about its future.
Thank you, Sriram. But I think, you're just painted such a depressing picture of journalism. So, what I want to say is that, journalism is like passion. Okay, money, it's come now. I'll talk about that paid journalism later. But we are always been taught that we are the humble representatives of the society and the ears and eyes and the nose of the society. And you have to bring to the readers what they should know which is directly and indirectly affecting them. And that's how public journalism, investigative journalism came about. Then what happened is that you won't believe the Indian Express that I worked for. Pune was the center which had 1,10,000 circulation readership was of course 5-6 lakhs, and Times of India at that time was 55,000. And all that we did was bring out civic issues and issues pertaining to the citizens. And then the great mighty Times of India in early 2000 decided, they held a conference, closed room conference in Goa of all the resident editors of the country, and said that enough is enough about people trying to know information from our paper and then, giving them knowledge and all that. But all that sells is crime, sex, and glamour. And that's how MediaNet was born and paid journalism started, right? Once I saw, in Pune Times, my daughter's friend, her second wedding anniversary picture. So how did you come there? She said, Auntie, nothing. I just sent a text and 5 photographs and paid them 20,000 and it all came. So every word in Pune Times is like paid. So the MediaNet set that tone. That's why we are called paid journalists, unfortunately.
So
that
2 Indian Express, 1 Times of India. I mean, it's a little unfair, but go ahead, defend.
No. So let me just complete the picture. So what I mean to say, poor thing, he must be doing good journalism. Yeah, it's the Jains who should gun for. But anyway, so that's how paid journalism started. And then when the television came in the last 10 years, the journalists on the television are not permitted. They are dictated. And I know for a fact that the media advisor of the PMO even just calls up and abuses the editors of the TV media in case they show anything apart from the ruling government. So whatever you see on television is like dictated today. Whatever now the newspapers picking up from the MediaNet, everybody started copying them because Jains were thought of as a great people who earned great profits by running a newspaper. And then that's how, other newspapers are in the dumps because you don't sell them like that. But now even the regional newspapers have begun selling like that. Hence, that whole passion crusader, jholawala, carrying a sling bag and going and writing news. Today in posh, even the stringers in little towns, they go in a Honda City, sometimes Mercedes, and have bungalows. Whereas we never had any money. I started Indian Express with 500 rupees a month and would go around.
And you accused me of portraying a dark picture.
Yeah, dark picture of journalism itself. Okay, the rest is fine. So let's go on to our next take. What do you think of the present day young journalists? And can genuine journalism sustain? And who do you think is to blame? Because there are young journalists who are so enthusiastic and brilliant. The management, which is sometimes is under stress to let the youngsters flow with their courageous journalism. Then you have the editors who are also under pressure. So how do you look at the picture of journalism today, Vaibhav?
Like I said, there is undoubtedly a crisis of credibility and crisis of retaining your readers, your viewers. That is another major crisis, especially post-COVID. But I'd like to emphasize here that the print media, the newspapers, still retain a lot of credibility. People still believe a lot in what is printed in a newspaper as against what appears on our phones or on any websites or on any TV channels.
WhatsApp University.
Yeah, WhatsApp University and also television, or it could be YouTube or any other new kind of media that I'm talking about. So that element of credibility still exists. And I would also like to emphasize that the Times of India is among the most credible newspapers in India, one of the top newspapers in India. I know the Times of India takes the most flack from within the media industry and also from outside the media industry. But the truth is that everybody else does exactly what the Times of India does. And the TOI gets painted as black and everybody else gets painted as, these very
Crusader.
avatars of integrity. Okay. So I think the crisis is everywhere. There are many of us still working hard, trying to keep our souls intact and doing our best. So, if print media retains its credibility, my theory is that journalism, regardless of the form it appears in, has certain core principles about how you approach news, how you do your news gathering, how you present a news report, and what are the ethical guidelines, the fundamental ethical guidelines you follow when you're putting forward your report or story or feature or investigative piece or whatever it may be, or a Q&A to your reader. So long as those core principles are intact and you follow those principles, then regardless of the medium, you may be on YouTube, you may be on WhatsApp, you may be practicing it on WhatsApp for all I care, because the medium has already changed. We are no longer in a world where newspapers come first. And I say that with a lot of sadness because I belong to a newspaper and I believe in newspapers. But the truth is, it's only the form that changes, and change is inevitable. Change is inevitable. The young generation is growing up without even looking at a newspaper. But journalism will remain the same. I think what we need to do is take those core principles there and apply those principles there so that fake news gets highlighted by the very sincerity of our news approach. You have to present it as the opposite of the fake news approach, and that is very much possible. People are doing it, and it will be done. Every profession, every industry goes through a crisis. In fact, journalism is not the only industry going through a crisis. There are multiple industries going through a crisis, and journalism is just one of the industries which faces the threat of AI involvement. What about restaurants? What about so much else? AI actually came into journalism and into our lives the moment we started using predictive text, the moment we started doing our Google searches. We are talking about the AI challenge now, but we started doing Google searches long ago. And what is Google search? The algorithm is nothing but AI. Why do you get only certain shopping ads? Because AI is checking your shopping patterns and throwing up those ads at you, right? So it's not a really new thing. We have woken up to it now because suddenly ChatGPT has got into the picture and is now threatening us even more than it did.
Yeah, we'll come to that. But of course, that was an indirect way. But anyway, Sriram, would like to hear your views on the state of journalism today, the youngsters. Can they pursue genuine journalism?
I obviously addressed this question at several colleges, and I disagree with her slightly in the sense I believe journalism needs professional journalists. And what journalists needs is professionalism. It is like any other career. You want to be a chef, you want to be a banker. There's passion in everything in life. You can't make bread without passion. You can't paint without passion. You can't sing, dance. You can't put this tent without passion. And you can also choose to do it. How well do you want to succeed in life is a fairly reasonable expectation for anybody. So I tell people, understand what is this profession. Check if you have the aptitude for it. Understand its challenges. Do you have the stomach to last this fight? Yes, it's made either look terribly glamorous. There was some time ago, of course, when some journalists became characters in movies and carrying a camera and a mic to the foothills of the Himalayas on the backdrop of a war or something like that, to people who are professional IT cells who troll you and call you names. I think between these two, you have to ask yourself, do you want to be a journalist? Do you not want to be a journalist? Any youngster who should know what are the career path, possibilities, potential, etc. We shouldn't say subsidize it with, in the name of passion, a lack of, I don't see the need for it. I think in India today, everybody can have a decent, prosperous career and they can choose what they want, including journalists. It's a relationship. To me, the relationship between the management and journalists, the newspaper that comes out and its readers, is a contract. It's a contract based on credibility, yes. Fine, you may say you have lost credibility. So I'm not very, I don't feel cornered when people say journalists have lost credibility. So I say, okay, show me who else will you get that information from. If you have a better alternative, and I'm not yet getting to ChatGPT because she said next.
Yes.
But you also don't have many options, right? So who else will you go to? Like I said, barring a newspaper. Yes, you have your 10, 20, 50, 100 wonderful people out there on Twitter giving you so much of interesting views, thoughts, ideas, etc. That's fine. As far as agenda is concerned, that's very different from fake news. I think there's a very clear distinction here. In America, for example, you have newspapers like New York Times, and then you have those journals and papers that come from the political right. Guardian says I'm a left, I'm a pro-labor newspaper. That's okay. That is very different. In India, of course, we're not divided. Our polity is not divided so much by left, right, either in economic or social or cultural sense. It's more party-driven, leader-driven. And it's all evolving. I think I don't see that also as a barrier anymore. I think all readers know if you want a certain kind of news, which channel to start at 9 o'clock depending on your views. Show me 5 people you follow on Twitter. I can tell you, you don't need AI to tell me whether you are a liberal, whether you are conservative, you are left wing, right wing, etc., etc., etc. Even the words you describe yourself, I'm not even talking the pronouns here, even the verbs and nouns will tell us of who we are. That's all fine. Yes, the format might have to relook at itself because in the next 10, 15 years, the number of younger people who have not ever read newspaper as a habit, number of households who physically buy the paper may go out. Or television may become more and more entertainment or instant visual gratification. Even that is no longer the prerogative of the big screen in your house or which is fixed. Your mobile gets you all the visuals. But I believe in the end, intelligent way of explaining to people what's happening. This news industry was not born with the Gutenberg's press as an invention. It was born when the first nomads became farmers, became cultivators of food, and they would gather around a circle to talk to each other about what happened all day. This human curiosity about, you know, you just hear a sound, suddenly what will all of you do? Just think about it. Suddenly there's a big sound there. You'll all turn around there.
Yeah, so that's amplified by newspapers.
I think there is an inherent curiosity in what you want to know. Or technology and media has enabled it possible for you to know more and more about more and more things at a faster, more fascinating pace. At some point, you will decide what is too much, what is right, what is wrong, who's credible, who's not credible. And there'll be enough voices catering to enough people. The rest is all individual strategies, tactics. Some will succeed, some will fail.
Right. Thank you so much. So actually, coming back to this journalism and youngsters who pursue journalism. So what happened is, you know, when we were in the Indian Express, the newspapers used to be known by the editor. Like if it was Arun Shauri, it would be Indian Express. You know, it would be N. Ram. Everybody knew it was the Hindu. So it was the editors that were the newspapers. And after this MediaNet thing, I'm not only blaming the Times of India because everybody copied it. It became, we were watertight compartments. Believe me, when a marketing guy used to come to me, even to say that a press release has to be published, he would like literally think 100 times and come with a total nervousness. So that was the watertight compartment and the freedom that the editorial had. But after that, it got mixed up and the marketing department overpowered the editorial department. And today, the management calls the shots. And that's where the death of journalism started. To give you an example, I'd use a lot of right to information. So one young girl, she was doing an research on women who use right to information all over the country. So when she came to me, she told me that she was working in a national newspaper, but after 2-3 years, she left the job. So I asked her why. So she said, like the first 2 days, we were given an orientation by the marketing department saying that our readers comprise A, B, and C. A is like Mukesh Ambani types, glamour, page 3 and all. B is upper middle class and those who generally read our newspaper. And C is the economically weaker class and the poor. So she was told that you can write on C only if it affects A or B. And that is if C had a protest on the road and the B is all the cars and you're held in traffic, then it was quite okay, writing that news. So it was all as crass as that, and how she was publicly humiliated when she had carried a certain picture. And in the marketing department, by 9:30, 10 p.m., when she was on the night desk, she would get that these photographs are paid for and therefore they have to be used. So when such a thing comes to a youngster, she said that better that, 3-4 of my friends have turned and become public relations officers in corporate communications. They said that's better than pretending to be a journalist and then doing what the management wants us to do, which is completely immoral, it is completely illegal, and it is not journalism at all. So in that way, the youngsters are stifled in pursuing courageous journalism. When we were thrown into the village to do a story, we just had to go there, get the story and come, and not pampered, slaughtered, slammed, nothing. But that kind of freedom, you'll agree, has become less now. But going to the next point.
Just a word. I really come from Hyderabad, a city where Times of India entered 24 years ago. Deccan Chronicle, which I work as, I work in Deccan Chronicle. We have more circulation than all the other remaining 6 English newspapers put together. Times of India, Hindu, Indian Express, Telangana Today, Pioneer, and Hans India, 6 of them. Times of India, which is number 2, follows me, not ever in its history of 24 years been able to touch 1/3. Somewhere between 1/4 and 1/3. So I don't understand this. We definitely agree that there is a general lack of credibility. The fact is certain incidents have happened, certain journalists have been questioned. The journalist nexus with those in power has shaped differently. What about Rajya Sabha membership of some of these editors who till 60 very holier than thou, then they suddenly go to Rajya Sabha and sit there. So questions can be asked. It's not individual integrity. Look, society has a standard of morals. You can question bankers, you can question HR guys in software technology, you can question a driver in a fire brigade or an ambulance. There is no end to who can question. Everybody can question everybody. All individuals somewhere have to stack up to give some answers. Institutions are definitely under siege. But one thing I can tell you, while some of those things are perhaps reason to be bleak, I believe in agency. I have just this stupid personal notion. If you want, you can say no, stick, and make some difference. And it's my own personal marketing doesn't come into my floor in DC at least.
Of course, there are many journalists. Why I'm stopping you is because we have 5 minutes and then question answers. So
we have 10 minutes, but I wanted to kind of steer it back to ChatGPT. Yes.
That's what I'm coming to. Nobody thought, we'll first just give a backdrop, but just quickly coming. ChatGPT is very interesting because some of my young journalists, now I'm the editor of Corporate Citizen, they actually if they interview someone, they go to the ChatGPT and ask it to turn it into an article, third-person article, and give it to me and say that, look, this is what I've written. And you can, of course, by experience, what do they write and how the article has come out now. So, could you just tell the entry of ChatGPT and how is it going to kill the journalism, the creative pen, the what do you call it? The analytical mind that a journalist has. And then you too.
Well, that is already a challenge, like you mentioned, Vinita, correctly. That you're out reporting and you gather some bits of information and just throw those bits of information to GPT and it comes up with something and you use that. Okay. But one is that one advantage going for journalism is that ChatGPT sticks to fixed formats at the moment. Okay. Now, ChatGPT is itself an evolving thing. Now, that is where the big challenge is because it's not fully developed yet. We've just been introduced to it. What is happening in newsrooms at the moment? I'll tell you. What is happening is everybody's right now has spent the entire year first figuring out what ChatGPT is. What can it do? What can it not do? What is its potential? What are its dangers? And by the time you realize what all those things are, ChatGPT has already moved forward. Okay, so we are going to play catch up. Now that is the first challenge. Your basic work of reporting and putting together a small copy or a biggish copy also can be done by ChatGPT, and undoubtedly it will compromise a journalist's analytical abilities. I'm not doubting that at all. So that is a big question going forward. And there are no definite answers at this moment, at least, because now we have to wait for ChatGPT to evolve and tell us what it's going to throw at us. Okay. That is the big bouncer, basically. Because, it's like the West Indian fast bowlers of the 1980s. They don't bowl one bouncer and over. 5 out of 6 balls are, bouncers. So, but I have a bigger challenge to highlight and flag. What the big danger is ChatGPT or all these AI systems taking data and information for free from across the world and using it any which way they want. Now, information does not come free. Now, that is the biggest threat to the existence of journalism across the world. Information, to provide any kind of content to anybody, credible content, you incur certain costs. So suppose Vinita is the editor and I am a reporter. And Vinita sends me to the Pune International Lit Fest and says, okay, you cover this session between, a few journalists. They're going to discuss ChatGPT. So I'm going to spend time reaching here. I'm going to use my computer, my phones, my phone bill. I'm going to put together a copy and send. Okay. But once I have written my copy and it's up on Google or wherever it is, ChatGPT is just going to pick it up and use that content for free and distribute it and rework that content.
Give it to others.
So then journalism is dead there. That is the biggest threat. It is already happening in the case of books. We are at a lit fest here. What ChatGPT did and AI did, OpenAI and some other organizations did, was take a bunch of novels of certain writers and study those novels and put together a fresh novel based on the pattern of that person's writing. Yeah. How can you take entire books from somebody? That is intellectual property. And you've taken that and created a new novel saying, this is how this person is going to write the next novel, so why should he or she write it? We'll put it together for you. I'll put it together for you in a matter of minutes, if not seconds.
Absolutely.
Now, what happens in this kind of a situation? A writer cannot sustain himself or herself. A journalist cannot sustain himself or herself.
Redundant.
And news organizations cannot sustain themselves on this. So we have to be very wary when we are patrons of journalism. Forget about journalists. See, we can discuss journalism and ethical journalism till the cows come home. Because invariably when the discussion is on journalism, the discussion is on journalistic ethics. As if the rest of society does not need to bother with ethics. Only journalists need to bother with ethics. Okay, and I'm not in any way absolving my profession at all. It's a culpable profession. There are corrupt people. There are in any industry. But this challenge, how are we going to face? And that is the big question. Right. Information is going out free. And if you continue and I continue to consume that information for free and don't ask questions, where did you get this data from? Then there is no way journalism can sustain itself, no matter how powerful a news organization is, because you are dead your information has just been lifted from somewhere.
Right.
Vinita mentioned, as correspondent of the Indian Express, you should go to a rural area. A young journalist today can go to a rural area and collect information and come back. When that journalist comes back and puts in that work and writes his or her copy, it incurs costs, travel, talking to people, meeting people, energy, camera, two camera persons. So where do you recover the cost? Because you're going to consume this all free. So do not consume media free. Do subscribe to media that is digital media also. Google and other platforms should be told to pay news organizations per clicks, which is happening in Australia and other places.
Right.
This is the big challenge.
Yeah, and before I go to Sriram,
No, Vinita, we really need to work on our time here. So I would like to see if there is any question.
So can Sriram just talk about this for 1 minute, because...
All right. And is there any question just before we allow Sriram to continue? No, okay, then we have time. Yes, Sriram.
Okay,
Sorry.
since we finally got into artificial intelligence, I'll give my perspective of AI with a slightly different perspective in terms of range of time and scope of its potential. Since you're at LitFest, pick up, if you can, a book called Airborne, which is a mirror reversal of Nowhere by Samuel Butler, written in 1872, where he argued that machines are the next step in human evolution. Meaning, what humans were to apes, machines are to us. 1872. We are talking of tools, more or less. So that idea was planted. If you read Roald Dahl, the great grammar automatizer, he speaks about this author who hates all publishers and other authors who don't give him respect. He doesn't get published. So he becomes an inventor, creates a machine that can write books like in 3 minutes. Just set the button, setting, novel, murder mystery, happy ending, characters, and comes out. And he says, I did it so that I could destroy all these scoundrels. Now let them compete with me. 10,000 novels I'll send every day, kind of thing. So these thoughts have been embedded in the past. But look, go back to Industrial Revolution. What was Industrial Revolution essentially about? In Industrial Revolution, the machine took absolutely irreversible lead over the human being in terms of muscular physical power. No longer could you run faster than a machine. No longer can you lift something faster than or heavier than a machine. The machine was physically stronger than you forever. What AI tells you is this: the machine is going to be more intelligent in complete sense of the word intelligence. We are not even seeing, ChatGPT is not even the tip of the iceberg. It's a tip of the iceberg. What it can do, whatever you today say, ChatGPT can't do this, AI can't do this, AI must be laughing, saying, oh really? Just wait for the next one. Just 2 weeks more. What capability we may have taken centuries to assimilate will be made. So what is very interesting is this. Economics. Go back to economics. Economics has always had a problem. Humans produce, humans consume, and this production and consumption, distribution led to poverty, all isms, etc. Are we going to finally, in 11 years' time, don't tell this to young people, they'll say, then why go to school at all? If machines are going to produce everything, we just have to sit and consume. The government will put some AI tax, everybody will get not only food, but books, movies, the pilots will be AI, the doctors, the lawyers. Children stop going to school, college. You don't have to be anything. You don't have to produce anything anymore. Your mind's monopoly has gone to the machine. Journalists is just one small part. Writers, editors. In the next panel, you may have 4 bots doing this discussion. But you will have to be there to listen, because bots will not read the reports written by bots. Bots will not watch the movies made by bots. So are we going to be only consumers? Is this the worst nightmare, dystopia, or is it the great utopia? Nobody has a clue. But I can tell you this much. Any person in my team who uses ChatGPT, I will figure out in 90 seconds, and he will lose a job. Maybe sooner than he should, if ChatGPT is going to take away our jobs. My point is this: every technology gives a kind of creative challenge. There have been ferry boats that came to New York, and they said, oh, will this end? The taxi guys threw away all the horsemen who used to take care of transport. Yes, there will be some of us who will lose our jobs, some of us will reinvent, the Darwinian circle will go on, some of us will become something else. So yes, if you are very young, figure out what are the 5 things you can do which algorithm or a bot can't do. If you are very sure you can do absolutely nothing which the AI can't do, then you learn AI and be the best AI so that at least you control it. Every profession will face challenges. Journalism will face, because information, writing, rewriting at the speed, but you cannot, and this I say, having just said that AI can do everything, primary inputs, unless you have robotic devices which can go and interview you, I would like to believe as much as high tech, there will be a need for high touch. People will need people. People would like to listen to, talk to, hear from people. To that extent, human beings will always be relevant to human beings. You will still not marry bots. You will still need friends of humans. Somewhere I think amidst that need, reinvention of professions will happen. Journalists will also reinvent themselves.
And also governments are human. So now Russia, China, Cuba, Italy, Iran, and Syria have banned ChatGPT. So humans can do that to ban. And at the same time, 49% of newspapers in the USA are actually using ChatGPT for the routine news. Routine news. Yeah.
Is it like, but what do they use ChatGPT for?
Just when it is
edit
getting
it?
interesting, I have to curtail it.
Sure.
Well, can I?
If you say it in like 1 minute max.
Well, I disagree, because AI has already become human. It has a human face. So I think.
We have to take it with
the
a
Prime
pinch of
Minister
I mean,
has
you
a-
didn't realize I am a bot all along?
They don't, because they also bots. We thought we're humans. No.
No, I think this is the previous generation and my generation speaking, because even now, if you look at dating, young people are dating on video and they see it as genuine dating, whereas we need to meet a person in order to date. I think the world has radically changed, and people have, there are already AI anchors giving you news on television, and this is way different from what we, unless we have a globally recognized AI governance. I think we are
I
headed
think-
for